Okay, so welcome again. And this time we're going to actually get into writing a method class and an instance class. And you're going to see the differences as to how they operate and what they do exactly. We have this my class. These are we're going to call these. We had these from this storyboard example that we had in one of our previous ones, and we're going to declare. Sorry about that. The method class. What we're going to want to return is a double. Uh, we want something we're going to have a decimal point or a double. We don't want something floating. We don't want an integer, which is a whole number. We don't want a string. We're looking for something that's a double pointed a number, if you will. And in this case, we're going to want to return pi to a certain number of digits. We're going to call it mClass, and so we declare it here in our declaration file. And we're going to do the same for the instance. Now you say, well, Art, what is the difference here? Why declare two of them like this? Because you'll see the difference as to how they actually operate, how one is called versus how the other one will be called. If I talk a lot, I apologize, but I want to get the point through. Now, of course, you'll know that we declared things here, but we didn't implement them. And that's what Xcode's telling us. So first thing we're going to do is look at this, again, double. It returns a double variable. Whoops, I'm sorry. A double pointed number. And then mClass IntelliSense will bring it up for us, and we'll bring it into, whoops, I apologize on that. Okay, there we go. So, it's telling me here that once I create the method, it's saying, hey, wait a minute, you reached the end of a non-void function, meaning you got to return something. You told me we were going to return a double, and you got to return that. So we're going to call our first function here double. X. Hang on a minute. A little. Right, that should be it. Double X. Oops, I'm sorry. I have the colon instead of the semicolon, and there we go. Okay. This is going to also say, hey, X isn't used. Whoops, throw that out there. Sorry about that. Yeah, unused variable. Okay. And then we're going to set X equal to 3.14159. We're still not finished, right? Because then we have an issue here. We haven't still returned anything. We have to return that number. So we go return, and of course X. Okay. And we're set to go here. Now this is also telling me, hey, wait a minute. You did not give me a complete implementation because you forgot the other method. Alright, so here we go. We're also going to call this double because this is the instance class. And there's our IntelliSense, right? And we're going to essentially do the same thing here. Double X. Whoops. Hit that colon instead of that semicolon, and then X equals, in this case, 3.14, and return X. Alright, so there we go. Now we're fully implemented. Everything is great. So we look at these and you say, hey, Art, they look the same. Why would you write two classes, or I'm sorry, methods, a method class and an instance class that look the same? Again, you're going to watch how these are implemented, and you'll see the difference on how they're called. Not implemented, but I should say called. So we're now going to go to our view controller class. Why? Take a step back here and go to our interface. What we want to do is this. We want to press these two buttons and have numbers placed in here, right? And to do that, we have to call these buttons, create these actual what's called outlets for these buttons, and then link them. So when we click them, they'll be linked to a method, and then that method will then place the number in these fields. Alright, so in the view controller here, we already have the outlets set up. These outlets, by the way, are I want to take a step back once again here, are here, these two fields. I'm just going to highlight these here. The class outlet here is for our class method, right? We already linked them. So if you didn't know how to do that, I'll just show you quickly. I'm going to unlink that one, and we're going to link it. Again, we'll do it here. You go to the referencing outlet, you drag this like so, go to the view controller, and you choose one of them. You have either class or a text class or text instance, and we pick that one and it links it to it, and we're good to go. So that means this information can be filled into here. These here, however, do not have methods linked to them, actions I should say, not methods. So in view controller here, the outlets are here, but now what we're going to need to do now is actually create, I'm going to come, the actions for the buttons. I'm going to come here and just grab these two here. This is some in my repository here, but I don't have to keep typing away here. And those, hang on, right, those are going to be placed here. Whoops, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. The actions for your button should always be outside over here. There we go. Always should be outside of the main main brackets here. These things are declared variables. These things are actions and methods. By the way, these methods here, they're void. They're not returning anything. So that's a possibility too, and you've seen that before. So we have two buttons pressed, actions 1 and 2. So we're going to save that, and save here, by the way, just to, when you save things you go from gray to white. Now we have to add those methods here, and if we do, so IB action selector, and this is going to be button pressed. Telesense comes up, we're going to use that one, and we only actually need it. Whoops, I'm sorry, it gave us a double. We only actually need one ID sender in here, and hang on, there we go. Okay, and now we're going to put the method in here. This is the button pressed method for the method class. All right. Oh, one other thing. In this, in order to access my class, we have to import it here. And it's already been done here. I just wrote this in previously. So we're going to take this out and put it back in to show you. We need to have access to the myClass function, or I'm sorry, class, the actual header file. Now where you place that kind of is irrelevant. I could have placed it here, and I'll tell you why it's irrelevant. Because I'm importing this here, and anything in here, which is here, will be imported into it as well. So you could declare it either in the you could import it, I'm sorry, in the declaration file or in the implementation file. I prefer to do it in the declaration file and just import the view controller or whatever the main declaration file is to get everything, because you'll get everything that way. Okay, so here now we have to, first thing we have to do is access that method from my class. I'm just going to go back to it for a minute and pull out, so I don't have to write this, but I'm going to show you what this means when we write this, when we do it. Whoops. Okay. We'll put it at the end. Well, it's right here. We are at the end. And what these two lines are. All right. We're saying we want to declare a new string, a string, and we use the NS string to do that. So I'm going to just type it in here for you again. NS string, right? Okay, and you always use that asterisk, and you're going to have new string, right? There we go. And then you're going to declare, again, you're going to say string with format, and this G is for double. And now here's the thing here. What are we going to use as string? This is the question. So we say we want a string, and we're going to format it as a double. So we're casting it as a double. And what we're going to place in there is we declare the myClass class, and we access the method mClass, and IntelliSense places that in the other bracket there, which we need. So we're saying take this value, all right, cast a string using this value as a double. And then what we have here at the end here is, this is an important one here too, we access this text class. Go back to that, show you that one. The UI text field, this outlet, where we're going to place this information here, right? We say, okay, we want to access the text class variable, but we have to access the text portion of that and set it equal to the string. So we extract the 3.14159, we format a string using this as a double, and then we set it equal to the text class text property. Basically saying, put it in the box as the text. Alright, okay. So it's going to flag me here because I don't have complete declaration on this one here. What's a semantic issue here? Incomplete implementation, right. So it's going to tell me that, which is fine. We're going to run this for a minute, just to show you. And let's wait till it comes up. It will run it even though there's an incomplete implementation. Build succeeded. Here we go. There's our simulator. It's coming up. Let's wait for it. Come on, come on. There we go. There's our simulator. We're going to move this over. Come on, come on, come on. Alright. It's going to run it. Alright, we're going to click on our icon here, and on class method, we click on it and it should fill it in. But why didn't it do it? We'll explain that in a minute. Won't do it. So we come back here, and the reason why it won't do it, let's go to the class method here. We didn't take this button and we didn't link it to anything, right? Now we're going to drag it over to our view controller, and we need to have an outlet for it, right? But we don't do it for the referencing outlet like we did the other one. We want to touch up inside the button. That's the one we really want to use. We want to have that. That's not a method, that's an action. And there you have either button pressed or button pressed 2, right? We're going to choose button pressed for the first one. Now we're going to rerun this. We've now linked it, the actual button in the view, to the button method, which it really is. It's an instance, it's an outlet, but an instance method. And when we run this, oh, come on, simulator, here we come. And here it comes. Now, when we click that class, we will now see 3.14159. So, okay, you say, well, big deal, Art. That's not really impressive to me. I'll explain in a minute what happened and why it did that. We now have to completely implement this too, because we now have to add the second action, which is button press 2. I'm just going to take this and copy it to make life simple. Okay. And we got to be careful here, too. And put the closing brackets in. Great, wonderful. Okay. Now, we're going to copy this for just a minute right here. So the big question becomes, hey, we're going to call this new string 2. We want to have different variables. And one thing we have to do here is we have to, I almost forgot, this is allocate. Okay, yeah. We need to have this line in here. I'll explain in a second why. I know I'm jumping. Alright. So we're going to create an instance. Remember, this is an instance class. So we take my class and we create an instance of it called NINST. And we allocate space. Now, at this point, we are not initializing, so we're at a 0 state. We're not at a +1. And this +1 state means we have something in memory. If we were to run the analyze over here under product and analyze to see if we have any gaps or areas where we have memory issues, we would find none, because we're not initializing it. We're just allocating space in this method, and it will die once it comes out of it. So once the instance of my class, the NINST instance of it, is created, it'll die once it's used. And then here now, we have to now take this. This is where it becomes interesting. And again, we're going to use this. Oops. Hang on a second. Whoops. It's not over here. I'm sorry. It's over this one. Cut it in the wrong spot. I apologize. I put it in the wrong. There we go. In this one. And this button press 2 should be right. And there we go. Okay. Had it in the wrong. This is the second button for the instance. So now, at this point, the question is, why am I doing that? Why am I creating that instance? Well, whoops. As you can see here, I need to create an instance of my class to access the instance class. If I don't create an instance of it, I can't access it, which is very different, if you remembered, from the method class. I didn't have to create any instance of it, right? None of it. I didn't have to do that. I simply had to access the method in the class. I had to declare the class, and once I do that, I can access any of its methods, but I didn't have to create a variable or an instance of that class. And that's the key with an instance class method versus an instance method versus a class method. A class method, simply I can access it within the class anywhere I want. And by the way, these actions here are instances of the class. Whenever the view controller is created, these are created. You simply can't access them without creating the view controller. Same thing here on this I class. If I don't create an instance of the my class, I can't access it. From the M class, I can get it without creating an instance. I just declare, okay, I gotta declare the my class over here, a variable here, not variable, method. This is a method of my class, of the actual class. So that's the real big difference here. One of them, I've got to create an instance. The other one, I simply access it from the class. Now, I have to do one more thing to show you this. Let's link this one here, right, to the touch-up inside. In there. And it's going to only let me choose, well, button press 2. It can let me choose either one, doesn't matter. And then we're going to run it, and I'm going to show you the difference here on the simulator. So, and then we'll wrap it up when we do that to really explain when you would use them and why you would use them. Okay, go. Remember the class method 3.1415 and the instance method 3.14. And they work. Now, okay, the million-dollar question is, well, why would I use each one? When would I use them? Here's the thing. Method classes are sort of like functions. You can get them to do anything. You can get them to return information. You can get them to manipulate information. The thing you need to understand is, I think, this, and this is how I view it, but you can look at it any way you want. Do I need a method or a function for my class, or can I place it somewhere else? I could have placed this method class in my view controller. I didn't have to place it here at all. I could have accessed it from there and manipulated the information there. But if it is, and let's say this class was my calculations class, and I wanted to access pi, a certain number of decimal places of pi, I would keep it there. The instance class, on the other hand, means I must create a variable of the class and use it and manipulate it. And that variable, depending upon how it's created, can be resident for a while in the method until you release it. In our case, because we're just spitting out a number and it's really a string, it's allocated but not initialized, so it's used and then gone. So the takeaway here is this. If I've got to create an instance of a class, then I need the instance method. If I just need to manipulate information or have it spit something out, then I use a method class. Another question you may be asking yourself this way, hey Art, why didn't we do it through the app delegate, the pipeline? Now you notice in the app delegate you have many instance classes. Well, anything that's an instance of the app delegate creates a method involved to it. It's an instance class method, or an instance method, I should say, to be more correct. And in this case, if I were communicating between classes, I would use my app delegate. But because in my storyboard here, right, my view controller controls everything, I don't need to have my app delegate grab that information for the buttons. But if I were to go to a different page, or in our previous examples where we pushed a view, I need to communicate between different classes, I would use the app delegate pipeline. All right, and you can certainly do that. I actually imported this here too. I could have taken this and I could have, it would have been redundant, declared or accessed that method from here and then use that, let's say, if this controller here, if the storyboard controller were connected to the app delegate, but it's not. It is connected to the view controller. That's its main file that controls it. So that's class methods and that's instance methods. So what I would say to you is this: if you're going to if you're going to manipulate information, or you're going to have a need to call a function numerous times within an application, then a class method is great. Where do you want to place that? Depends upon its function relative to your application. If your function relative to your application is specific for a calculation, for, I don't know, maybe it's a method for a table, you're creating some sort of a table view, so it's a specific method for the table view, or maybe for the picker or something, then you have a class method. If, however, you need to create an instance of the class and then you need to manipulate that variable, whatever that variable is, in our case it was this NINST variable, right? We would have access, by the way, let's just take a quick look to close this out, to all kinds of methods. Once you create an instance, I mean, we would have all of these methods we could access and use for whatever reason, right, for this particular class. You notice that the method is also, the method class is also accessible. And the interesting thing about that is when you create an instance of something, your method is accessible. Your method class as well as your instance class, right? They're both methods. However, if you came back to over here, and I wanted to show you the difference to close this out, and I don't have a lot of time, but if I go my class, right? Hang on. And then I try to access, I don't have an iClass. I don't have it. It's not there. It doesn't exist. Because I don't have an instance of it. Now, let's do a final thing on this here. Just a final, let us take this and put the M class in. And see what happens. Now, what's it telling me here? It's giving me an error. Property M class not found for an object of M class. It's a property. It's seeing it as a property. Where on the I class, so we would have to, if we wanted to access, I would think. Let's try it. It should work. See. Yeah, it won't work. It sees it as a property of it, but because there's no instance, you cannot declare the M class. You can't do it. Just see if we can use it as a method. Yeah, it's not even going to say that that method exists. Yeah. Right, with the selector. So, you are limited to, hang on, I need to put a bracket out, there we go. You are limited to say this, is that method classes are declared by simply declaring the class and then the methods associated with them. An instance class, you have to create an instance of it, of the particular class you're dealing with, and then you get access to that method. So, again, here, right, there it is. Even though for some reason I can get this property, I can't use it. I can't access it according to the IntelliSense, because it's giving me the error message telling me that property M class not found for object of the type M class. So it's saying I see it, but you can't use it that way. What you would have to do is, if you wanted to access it, you would declare it this way here. And you can do that, but then this line here has to come out. So, to close out, and I know I'm running long, for a method class, we declare the name of the class and then have access to all of those method classes. For an instance class, we have to create an instance of it, and then we can get with the dot syntax access to it. You notice the way I declared these as well here, or I wrote these, I'm sorry. I can grab this dot I class as a property, because it's a property of the instance, and that's why I can get it. This is not a property of the instance. I couldn't do that. Could I declare this, or could I write this way? I don't believe I can. I think it's going to flag me for an error. Well, no, I can do it. It is a property of that, so I could do it that way. I could do the dot in that way. Let's see if we can run that and see if it works. Just quickly to close out here. Come on. Bill succeeded. And we're just about ready to see it. Here's our simulator. Yeah, it does work. I don't particularly care. My way of doing things is, this is a property. To me, the dot is more of a property, and it is a property of the class, but I prefer to declare methods in this function, in this way, or to write them in this way. In brackets, the class and the method of the class. When you're dealing with an instance, you can do the dot. I feel it works well. Instance variable, dot, its property. So, to close out again, this is class methods, class name in brackets, method of that class, close brackets, instance method, the instance variable, dot, and its property, which is the instance class. So that's it for now. And again, you can use method classes as functions, anything that you want. They can return integers, strings, voids, nothing. Now, a void, an example of that would be, let's say you want to get information from SQL SQLite. We've seen that. Look at my previous tutorials. You extract from SQLite, you get that information. You're not returning anything, but you're just sending it to the data from SQLite. You're sending it to what? A variable, but you're not returning it. That's a void. And in the instance class methods, those, if I'm working on an instance of the class, that's what I do. So anyway, hope that helps. I'm going to try to get people the code that they've requested. If they've requested it for some of the tutorials, I apologize for my delay, and we'll be in touch with some more tutorials very shortly, so take care.